What's up guys, Buddy Figel here coming at you with a review for the new Hinder album, Back to Life, released a couple weeks ago almost now, May 23rd. Not only is it 2025 and we're getting a new Hinder album, we got a new Hinder album, I should say at this point, but I'm actually going out of my way to review it. Who would have thought? Believe it or not, I actually used to enjoy this band's music back when I was a lot younger and way before I got into metal and eventually extreme metal and all that. I remember when the Smoke Clears dropped in 2015, it was the first album with their current vocalist, Marshall Dutton. I was like one of the only people who at the time enjoyed that album. It's been a while since I listened to it, so I don't know if I would say I still enjoy it, but I remember at the time liking it. I should explain why I'm deciding to review this album, as opposed to other albums by similar bands that I just haven't bothered reviewing, like the Trapped album that came out last year, or that Puddle of Mud album that dropped like a couple months ago. I didn't even bother reviewing those records. I think I gave them brief listens and just was done with them just from that. Because in general, like, if I know I'm not gonna enjoy an album, I'm not gonna review it. Every album I listen to in preparation for reviews and every album I intend on reviewing, I always give a fair chance. But the reason that I chose to still review this album is because, as opposed to, again, some of their other peers, Hinder just seems to be so self-aware at this point, and I respect the shit out of that. Like, I remember when they first started promoting this album and they released that first single, Live Without It, their verified Instagram account was making posts, and they themselves were hashtagging on the posts butt rock, dad rock, divorced dad rock. I loved that. I loved how self-aware they were. And it was a sign to me that the band would be just abandoning any modern trends or trying to appeal to a newer, younger crowd and trying to gain a new generation of fans, I guess. To me, it was a sign that they were going to just be themselves on this new album and kind of maintain whatever fans they still have, which I'm sure they still have a good amount of genuine fans. I mean, they're still at 5 million monthly listeners on Spotify, which is pretty impressive. It seemed that they were going to appeal to the longtime fans, the nostalgic crowd, I guess, and I really do respect that. I respect that a hell of a lot more than, like, some of fucking Shinedown's modern output or that god-awful fucking Sick Puppies album that came out a couple months ago that I ripped to shreds in my review of it. Just when bands of this generation try to be young and hip and trendy, it's so fucking cringy. I cannot stand that. So Hinder's self-awareness going into this record is why I wanted to review it and give it a genuine chance. Now, does that mean I enjoy this album? No. For one thing that immediately scared me going into it was the fact that it's 13 songs. I mean, this is their first album in 8 years, so I understand appealing to, again, like I just said, the nostalgic crowd, the longtime fans, and giving them something that, in their eyes, was worth the wait. That makes sense. But it had me worried, not gonna lie, because when I do reviews, I listen to albums multiple times, because if I just listened to it once, jotted down a couple notes, I would have nothing to say about it. It would be too difficult. So knowing I was going to listen to this 13-track 2025 Hinder album multiple times all the way through, yeah, it had me pretty nervous. And let me tell you, now that I'm doing this review and I don't have to listen to this record anymore, I don't see myself ever coming back to it, at least as a whole. This record really punished the shit out of me for wanting to review it and giving it a review. One of the most frustrating parts about this album is that the couple tracks that I actually think are somewhat good are right next to, in the track list, some of the worst, cringiest songs I have heard all year. Like the track Vultures, for instance, I actually kind of fuck with a little bit. Like, it actually goes for this dramatic feel the whole time and somewhat decently at least pulls it off. You got that tension-building piano line that carries through in the verses, and then Marshall's vocals on the chorus not only sound pretty, like, sonically rich and layered, but his performance is, at least it sounds pretty impassioned. And as a result, that chorus does sound really full, and it's a satisfying payoff after you get through those tension-building verses. There's a halfway decent guitar solo in this song that I actually kind of enjoy, and then the way that the piano line comes back at the end of the song to close it out, this is actually a pretty solid track. But immediately after it, in the track list is the track Bad Decisions, which is a very fitting name because this song was a bad decision. It's at least sort of in line with some stylistic familiarity for Hinder here, which is at least somewhat better than I could say about a couple of the other tracks on here. But it's just this terribly cheesy butt rock / sleaze rock song. One of those butt rock songs where it's got like that like sassy vocal delivery that tries to have like that attitude to it. This is probably one of those songs where if you are a longtime fan of the band and you enjoy like a lot of their catalog overall, or if you're a fan of similar bands like your Buck Cherries and your Theory of a Dead Man, stuff like that, you might kind of enjoy this track. But that style overall just does nothing for me at this point. That to me is like true butt rock. Like when people call Breaking Benjamin and 3 Days Grace butt rock, I point them this direction. But again, the band is aware of that. So they still have my respect, not gonna lie, even with a song as terrible as this. And then later in the track listing though, the same 2-song dynamic kind of happens, but in reverse. Because the track Good Enough For You might be the worst song on the album. When I first heard that intro with the kind of auto-tune sounding R&B thing that Marshall does, I almost started gagging. This is one of the few, I will give them, moments on this album where they do kind of sound like they're trying to pander to younger audiences. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Marshall or the band in general are just fans of R&B music and wanted to incorporate some of that in the album. But the execution of it does make it feel pretty pandering. And even that aside, this song is just so fucking sappy. It's really difficult to get through. Even if I could get past the awkward R&B stuff and the pandering feelings I get, it would be such like an emotionally draining listen. It's one of those songs where like the emotions aren't profound enough to really get you in your feels, and instead you listen to this track and it kind of just makes you feel bad, if that makes sense. But then again, after this song is probably my favorite track on the album, Hard to Love. The emotions in this song actually feel pretty genuine. That opening chord progression that carries through most of the song is actually pretty warm and inviting. And this is a song where I can actually really settle into it, and it's pretty consistent as far as the mood goes. And these lyrics about feeling like you're hard to love is something that I think a lot of people, especially people with any kind of emotional or mental health issues, could relate to. And Marshall's vocals on this song, he doesn't overexert himself. He doesn't try too hard to sound super emotional, which would kind of be something that would turn me off normally if I feel like the vocals were overdone. His vocals are they're pushed just enough to where they complement the mood of the song. And as a result, it does feel a lot more genuine. But the thing about this album, beyond these pairs of songs, is that the rest of it is either kind of familiarly boring, if that makes sense, or they do kind of experiment here and there in ways that don't really pan out too well. Like you have songs like Live Without It and Break the Cycle and Reminiscing You that do feel like very familiar Hinder territory, which again, I'm sure lots of genuine fans of this band would probably enjoy hearing. But for me, it doesn't really do it. Like I said, this style of hard rock has to be pretty, at least interesting to keep me engaged, and these songs just aren't. They just don't have enough interesting musical or lyrical ideas to really keep me hooked. It's on some of the, I guess, more ballad type tracks where the band does experiment a little bit. Like the acoustic ballads like Time to Breathe and the, I guess, pseudo title track Bring Me Back to Life, they do kind of feel like they fit into a confined, like, modern pop song structure. And not just in the structures, I should say, but just some of the melodies overall. And same with the closing track on You're Trying to Get Home, which is maybe a little bit more familiar territory. It sounds exactly how you would think it sound from the title. It's just one of those bluesy acoustic ballads, if you want to call it that. These are songs that, like, again, might not be, like, leaps and bounds into new territory for the band, but they do feel a bit more modern as opposed to some of the more rock type songs on here that feel more dated or like they could have been on one of Hinder's older albums. There's also Rear View, which has some pop punk type stuff, which I find to be a little awkward sounding. Everything is a Cult, which is also a single, has some electronic influences in it. These are also songs where I'll give them credit for experimenting a little bit, but it doesn't pan out for me. And I guess for full album points, The production actually does sound pretty decent, at least for this style of rock music. It sounds pretty fresh and crisp, I guess, and it's not like one of those overbearingly hyper-modern produced modern rock albums, like, again, the fucking Sick Puppies album. Watch my review of it if you want to see me absolutely tear apart a record even worse than this one. The performances were pretty good. I mean, the stuff I'm criticizing on here is a lot more from, like, songwriting perspectives. But, I mean, the performances themselves, I think, are solid. Marshall's vocals sound pretty good. I do think he might sound too nasally at some points on here, but overall, he delivers a pretty good vocal performance. The lyrics aren't anything special, and there were moments on here, like Bad Decisions, where they really cringed me out. And with all that being said, I mean, I at least was somewhat pleasantly surprised with how little that I found to be unlistenable, which the fact that I can say that as praise obviously implies that the bar was not very high. And overall, although I definitely did not enjoy this album, it could have been a lot worse. And again, even though I really didn't enjoy this album, I'd still do really respect the band's approach to this album and to their new music overall. I wish them the very best, but for now, I gotta score this album a 6 out of 30. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to comment your thoughts on this album below if you have heard it, and check the description of the video for my Instagram, Spotify, Threads links, as well as a link to my original music on Spotify. Remember to hit subscribe for more rock and metal-related content and album reviews. And until next time, thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.